Good morning, Beaumont. Well, today I want to share something that's a little concerning, and it comes from Judicial Watch. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, two guys that I've absolutely appreciated for several years. They're good friends, and they've been friends of Judicial Watch for some period of time. And we applauded their appointments as director and deputy director of the FBI. Expectations were high. In a statement following Patel's confirmation as FBI director, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton noted that Patel did indeed have his work set out for him. He called on Patel to bring transparency and accountability back to an agency that had become irredeemably corrupt and the tip of the spear in unfettered lawfare against any American seen as a threat to the ruling class. Well, first of all, I have to correct Judicial Watch Tom Fitton here. The FBI was born in iniquity. It was started by a cross-dressing pervert, J. Edgar Hoover, and that was the high point. It went straight to hell after that and has never recovered. The primary job of the FBI up until this point in time has not been to enforce the law, but to make sure that it was properly depicted in TV shows and movies, so that you would think the FBI was some high and mighty, really high-class, well-prepared group of individuals. But in my opinion, nothing could be further from the truth. Anyway, what we discovered was that they were absolutely corrupt, irredeemably corrupt, from sitting on Hunter Biden's laptop in order to influence the 2020 election, the fact that they raided President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, going through his wife's underwear drawer, and the censorship of Americans. They targeted traditional Catholics. The FBI has shown itself as a tainted domestic and intelligence service. Veteran Washington reformers like Tom Fitton understand that Patel's time for true change is limited. The deep state, the forces of inertia, the political calendar are all working against him. These days, conservative insiders are alarmed by mounting signs that both Patel and Bongino have in effect been taken hostage by the deep state consensus because they are so far failing to bring any meaningful change to the FBI. An early warning sign came all the way back in April when Patel picked Stephen Jensen from exile in Columbia, South Carolina, and appointed him to head the FBI's powerful Washington field office. We were aghast. They made all kinds of excuses for why they brought him in, and we thought that we were going to see something amazing. But he was the chief of the domestic terrorism section of the FBI headquarters from 2020 and 2021, and he led the highly damaging law enforcement campaign against the January 6th protesters, who once again were operating under the First Amendment idea that not only did they have freedom of speech, but they had the right to seek redress from government, and I know I was there. Jensen was a true believer in the Biden administration domestic terrorism narrative. Every Trump supporter in and around Capitol Hill on January 6th, in their mind, was an insurrectionist, a white supremacist, and probably violent. Now, for those of you that did get to see my video before YouTube unceremoniously took it down and gave me a 9-month suspension before they completely canceled my channel, you know that there were a huge number of black and brown folks there, not just white folks. And I asked a number of them, what are you doing at this white supremacist rally? And they all laughed because they knew it was a joke. Jensen set up the infrastructure for the domestic terrorism narrative. He made the decision, set the mechanism by which all cases would be open around the country to give the picture that this was a nationwide problem and that white supremacists were the true threat to the American Republic. Both Patel and Bongino vigorously defended Jensen on Fox News. They urged patience. They said, just wait, you'll see. Nothing we're doing, nothing is by accident. Well, that was over 2 months ago, and we're still waiting. Meanwhile, more concerns have surfaced. There are media reports about Patel's jet-setting lifestyle and love of sporting events. These could largely be dismissed as sour grapes from the opposition press, but the disquiet about the FBI's lack of transparency and their failure to mount a significant investigation is not easily ignored. Exhibit A. You already know what it is. Yeah, the Jeff Ep. The Jeff Ep files. The wonderful Pleasure Island. In February, following a much ballyhooed campaign promising new disclosures, Attorney General Pam Bondi released an underwhelming batch of documents which were basically the same garbage that we already knew, most of it not true, and most of it not illuminating. So Bondi pinned the blame on the FBI. Apparently she didn't look at it. I don't know. She promised that more documents would come as soon as the next day. Well, no documents were forthcoming. Judicial Watch has repeatedly asked the FBI to turn over the Epstein files under the Freedom of Information Act. I mean, Epstein is dead. Why not? But they did not respond to Judicial Watch's request, and in April, Judicial Watch sued for the records, and the Justice Department needs to respond to public demands for transparency under the law and release the Epstein files under the Freedom of Information Act, which, by the way, in my personal experience over the last 15 years or so, has been that they say we have freedom of information, but the government really doesn't follow the rules. The Epstein case is not the only instance of troubling lack of transparency at the Justice Department and the FBI. Officials have been stonewalling Judicial Watch, and it's not a good deal. 7 years ago, Judicial Watch filed a Freedom of Information lawsuit for text messages between the FBI agents involving the bogus Donald Trump's a Russian spy issue. The FBI refused to turn over many of the texts and related documents even to this day, and they have not even disclosed what they're not handing out. Judicial Watch sued the Justice Department twice in 2023 and 2024 for communications surrounding the controversial Hunter Biden laptop story. In October 2024, Judicial Watch sued the Justice Department for communications among top officials about the anti-Trump social media posts being made by senior agents. The Justice Department and the FBI are responding to these requests with stonewalls, silence, and foot dragging. Installation in key positions of the deep state actors like Jensen and a lack of transparency are not the only strikes against Bondi, Patel, and Bongino. Perhaps most disturbing is their failure to act decisively to reduce the vast powers of the Justice Department and the FBI, to rein them in, to restore the chains upon them that were placed there by the Constitution of the United States. I should also remind you that the TSA is still in existence, and they violate the Fourth Amendment of literally hundreds of thousands of Americans every day. President Trump was almost jailed by his own Justice Department in the first term. Steve Bannon recently reminded viewers in the War Room that there's no evidence that the FBI thinks it's a subject to the rule of law. Fitton said, Kash, Patel, and Pam Bondi need to take a more aggressive approach and have an expansive understanding of what their opportunities and roles really are. It's a systematic problem, according to Steve Bannon. It's not just a personal problem. The FBI must be dismantled brick by brick. Well, I personally believe the FBI has no constitutional basis to exist and therefore should be eliminated. The outlines of an aggressive inquiry would set the stage for reducing the power of the Justice Department and the FBI. First, get to the bottom of the targeting of Trump and his allies in the Russiagate scandal. Second, look at the FBI role in hiding the Hunter Biden laptop tapes. Oh, and by the way, the Hunter Biden laptop, there are more than 16 felonies that are videoed on that laptop. 16 felonies, including having relations with an underage girl who happened to be the daughter of one Congressman Coons. Also, expose the roots of the 2022 Mar-a-Lago raid, connect the dots to the FBI targeting of conservative Catholics and parents attending school board meetings, as well as other pro-life groups. Doubtless, Bondi, Patel, and Bongino have their hands full managing the day-to-day affairs of this giant bureaucracy. Conservatives still wish them well, but time is running out. The president promised to demolish the deep state, but so far, it's being a tough row to hoe. I can tell you this. I don't think that Bondi or Patel or Bongino, I don't think they can be bought with money. I don't think they can go up there and offer them $10 million and have them just turn around. What I do believe about all three of them is when they show up and say, hey, you got a nice looking family here. We would hate for anything to happen to them. I think that's how they can be coerced. That's why Donald Trump is so effective, because his whole family is in on it. They have already pledged their lives their fortune and their sacred honor to this endeavor. I can't say the same about Bondi, Patel, and Bongino because they're just normal people. They're not wealthy, and they just don't have the stroke that Donald Trump has. You know, we need people to remember us and think good things about us every day. We need to give gifts to friends, loved ones, and customers, and that's why you need to go see my friends Brian and Christina at crazynestcreations.com. There you will find amazing custom t-shirts, coffee mugs, and incidentals that are going to make their day. You can find a t-shirt for your honey from the great Stylized Owl collection, or something for your friend or client or customer to cement your relationship for years to come. Don't forget, you have to get reelected to be grandma, grandpa, aunt, or uncle of the year, and that requires gifts. So crazynestcreations.com gives you an inexpensive way to engender warm and loving feelings for a lifetime. crazynestcreations.com, crazynestcreations.com, crazynestcreations.com. Go there today. Get those goodies for your friends, loved ones, and clients. You won't regret it, and they're going to remember you. The truth is, I believe the deep state is alive and well. These are the people that want us to have a one-world government under a benevolent dictator, and they'll do anything to make that happen. There's a reason why Donald Trump has been sued and shut down by district judges more than every president combined since the beginning of the United States, most of it in the last 60 days. Why? Because up until now, it really didn't matter that much. You go back to somebody like Ronald Reagan, they could contain him. They could get him to do the things they needed done and not really have any problems. But with Donald Trump, he has ruined everything for the Chinese, which, by the way, they do have a trade agreement now, and I'll probably talk more about that on tomorrow's show. But he's ruining everything for the drug cartels. And the color revolution that I talked about on yesterday's show, that is alive and well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in deep doo-doo. You better pray. You better call your congressman. You better call your senators. But the real problem is simply this. It happened to Alex Jones. Alex Jones said, when I started revealing all of this stuff, they came to me and said, we got $10 million here for you if you'll just shut up or get on board. Well, Alex Jones didn't take it. You saw what they did to him. Alex Jones would be probably the biggest show on radio next to Rush Limbaugh now if it were not for the fact that he wouldn't take the money. And Rush Limbaugh, gotta love the guy, but Rush Limbaugh was much smarter than I am. He's very careful about what he would say. Anyway, guys, see you tomorrow. You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.